He might go all the way. He gives it a ride. It's a chance. It'll be a goal. You beauty, buddy. Wants me roll the floor. He can. Come up the moment. Come up the champion.
What a way to win against the Hawks. Drama, tension, a spectacular and singular effort from the player least expected and an AFL record set. One of the finest performances you will ever see from a small forward, and that was before all the off-field drama even started. This is a Swans Blog's SwansCast, the number one Sydney Swans fans podcast.
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned before the game. I walked out of the coach's room and he was just about to walk in. I asked him where he was going and he said, I don't know how to get out in the ground. And so I slipped my mind that he hadn't actually been here. So I hadn't played out of these rooms and so I had to guide him to get out in the ground. So I'm glad he found his way when he got out there.
In this week's episode, we'll be dissecting the Swans' fantastic 8-point win against the Hawks on Friday night at the MCG. We'll give you our Monday champions and villains, discuss Lloyd's 100th, Ben Ronke's spectacular game, Clarko's brain snap, give a quick wrap of the Swans NEAFL result and have Penny answer questions in our 3-minute scramble. I'm Justin Mitchell and with me is passionate Sydney Swans supporter Penny Jackson, whose family has followed the Swans for more than 110 years. So Penny, you're a third generation South Melbourne Sydney Swans supporter, even before their very first premiership. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Hi Justin, and this is my first podcast, so everyone please do not dislike or disfollow this because of me. I'm really sorry. So my nana grew up in South Melbourne. She was born in 1907 and was a dedicated South supporter going to the Albert Park Lake. She saw the first Swans premiership in her family in 1933 and I was born into it. I really had no choice, but it's been great and I love the Swans.
Now your mum is also a Sydney Swans supporter as well and she's arguably more passionate?
In time she's... She gets a bit nervous during the tight games, so she'll run out of the room. She can't stand watching the close ones, but I think her passion and my nan's passion kind of grew onto me.
No, that's fantastic. It's always really good to get an insight into what other Sydney supporters, their journey and their passion and how they follow the club is. And look, my story's a bit different, but we'll get into that another time because I think it is time to get straight to the top of the agenda. And on today's show, it starts off with Ben Ronke. Now, he has set an AFL record in his third AFL game, and believe it or not, he's still just a rookie. Penny, what did you make of his game?
That's crazy. I mean, we saw his potential in the Geelong match, and then he had a bit of a quiet one last week, and maybe the conditions didn't suit him, and you saw him get the first 2 goals, and you're like, oh, wow, he's on fire, and then they just kept going and going and going. You're like, wow. Where'd this kid come from? Why didn't we play him like a year ago?
Now, when he kicked his 5th goal, I must say I carried on a bit like a pork chop.
Yeah,
and I didn't realise, even when he kicked his 4th, I didn't even realise he was their only goal kicker at that point. He kicked 7 goals, game high. He also finished with 10 tackles, another game high, 7 tackles inside 50, another game high. And from 11 disposals, he was 85, roughly about 85%. And he also finished with another game high, 26 pressure acts. And to just top it all off, he is now nominated for Goal of the Week, so you can vote for him, and it was his 6th goal of the night when he beat off 4 different opponents in the forward pocket and just basically waltzed in and got us back in the game. And he's also received the NAB Rising Star nomination for Round 8. Just how good was that?
Oh, that's insane. That's the greatest first game that I think I've seen for a while. And
well, 3rd game, honey, but...
Whoops. Greatest, third game that you've seen from a new player, and all those stats just add up to show how brilliant he was. I mean, wow.
Yeah, he was absolutely fantastic. Now, obviously, some Swans news came out today when John Longmire had his press conference, so Dan Hanbury's looking like a pretty good chance, but unfortunately, Franklin is out this week, and it's still unknown how serious the injury is. There's a bit of discussion that it could have been plantar fasciitis, or as I was talking on Facebook, it might even have been deep muscle bruising or potential bone bruising that's keeping him out. Penny, do you think we need him at the moment?
Well, we seem to be going pretty well, and we've got a couple of lighter games against Fremantle, Carlton and Brisbane. So
Yep.
they originally said it was going to be 4 weeks, so it's coming up to the 4-week mark, I think.
It is
out.
now, yeah. This will make it now 4 weeks, and there's rumours and whatnot floating around, and people have been talking about whether or not he'll even be back before the bye or the Carlton or St Kilda game. Time will tell. Sooner he gets back, the better, I would think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's a key structure in our forward line, but it's good to let the other players have their turn. Ronke had his turn, and who's going to have their turn this week?
Oh, absolutely. Tom McCartan, maybe, again. You could always bring in Joel Amadi. I'm not quite sure he's ready, and
Don't
certainly...
know who he is, but I'm sure I'll learn about him.
He certainly needs his kicking boots. His shots at goal, I think he'd fit in with the senior team at the moment, spraying them all over the place, but he keeps getting in the good spots, and McCartan was really good on the weekend.
I thought he did some good things.
A few people were a little bit critical, but given he's 18 years old, I think he's the youngest player in the competition. He was certainly the youngest in the draft. And he took about 3 or 4 contested marks and a massive contested mark in the last quarter too, which I thought was really, really impressive. Now, on to our Monday moment of madness. Now, this is a bit hilarious and it's a bit bizarre, really. Now, that is Clarko, and he's ranting and raving like a lunatic, like a madman. He's just gone full-blown crazy. You know, you just never go full-blown crazy. His press conference on Friday night after the match, he had a bit of a crack at the Swans. He said, their defenders get away with blue murder. On Saturday, he continued his raging rambling of nonsense, basically picking apart the Swans and Roos game, saying, Rampy had only one choice to defend Ben Brown, and that was defend his body, which anyone who's taught as a defender is actually taught to defend the body as well as the ball, take the body out if you can legally. And then on Monday, believe it or not, he's had a morning meeting with Gil Lachlan at 7 a.m. and he's brought his laptop and his PowerPoint presentation and he's clicked through a little thing and he's had a bit of a whinge about the umpiring again and the Swans. And I just loved that Longmire, he gave him a whack on I think it was on Sunday originally, where it's like, we'll have a good laugh about it afterwards. It's probably really nothing to worry about. But then on Monday when he had his press conference at training, and he was told that Clarkson was still rambling on about it and complaining, he gave him a good little whack.
Look, it was a strange comment from Alistair, considering the previous 3 times when they beat us by a kick, nothing was said. And when you just look at what Hawthorn do, they do exactly the same thing. So there's plenty of examples of Hawthorn players. Have a look on the AFL's own website today about Hawthorn doing exactly the same thing. So, it's, in the end, it's an important part of the game, and just a bit unusual that you can comment on other teams and make assertion on other teams and what they do, and think yourself and your team does everything absolutely perfectly right.
So yeah, that was John Longmire paying his tribute to Clarkson, who's basically turning into a madman. A bit of a parody and caricature of himself. Penny, what did you think of Clarko's raging rant?
Oh, I think he was a bit of a sore loser. I mean, I didn't actually watch his press conference, so I've learned when I play netball, I always learned that you defend the player, you don't defend the ball.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
And no, it's an interesting analysis. I mean, if the Hawthorn had won, I'm sure he'd be singing a different... Hawthorn had won, I think Clarkson would be singing a different tune entirely, so...
And also Longmire pointed that out after the match when he said, back even last year when Hawthorn were getting away with it, he didn't say anything. So, you're right. It all just sounds like sore loser, just a whinge for a whinge's sake. And as I said in the talking points after the match, he's just ripped that page straight out of the book of whinging from Chris and Brad Scott, the 2 whingiest coaches in the AFL.
Yeah. Well, the media's gobbled it up and given them something to talk about this week, so...
Well, yeah, deflection at its best, but now it just sounds a bit idiotic. Now, straight on to our Monday champion now, Penny. You haven't gone for a Swans player in this week's Monday champion. Who have you gone for?
Well, I thought Ben Ronke was pretty obvious, so I decided to go a different player. I went with Stephen Motlop.
Really? Why is that?
He kicked that match-winning goal. I mean... Port Adelaide had done everything to be in front, and then Adelaide came out of nowhere in those last 2 minutes.
Yep.
And then Adelaide got in front, and you even heard the commentators say every Adelaide player except for 2 is in the Port Adelaide forward line. They still managed to get the ball to him and get a goal. I mean, Geelong are probably thinking, why did we let this guy go? Now Port Adelaide are thinking he's like they're, their new hero. They're going to go out and get Stephen Motlop numbers on the back of their jumpers. Like, he's their prodigal son now.
He's been their pickup of the season so far. Like, there was a lot of talk about Jack Watts and a couple of the other players as well, but he's certainly been their best pickup this year.
Well, he certainly will be if he keeps going and doing what he's doing.
Well, I went the obvious one, of course. I always go pretty much a Swans player or Swans something for the Champion of the Week. And,
Of course you did. It's
of course
easy.
I did. Of course it is easy. I took Ben Ronke. As you guys would have seen, obviously I posted the video on Facebook pretty much right after the end of the match when he kicked that game-winning mark, and we were pretty much in the box seat for his last quarter performance.
Mark.
Yeah, and kicked the
Game-winning mark.
he kicked the game-winning mark. Well, yeah, and he took the match-winning goal. Sure. Let's go back over that, and we'll say he took the match-winning mark and kicked the match-winning goal.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah, a bit of alliteration there, unintentional. But he was fantastic, and look, already discussed him at the top of the agenda. Third game, still the rookie. I'm waiting for the Swans to just chuck him a laundry bag with a dollar sign on it and a blank check and say, just name your price, because, geez, this kid can play.
He can.
Now, Monday villain. Penny, who was your Monday villain?
I'm really sorry for this because I actually used to work with his girlfriend, but I'm going to go with James Sicily.
Oh, yeah, I can see this coming. I can see it coming. Please explain why.
Well, to be honest, he was a bit of a flog. The waving of Luke Parker, thinking Luke Parker was going to get suspended. Then Luke Parker kicks the winning goal.
Yep.
Then he has to have a chat to the umpires because someone did something wrong at the end of the game, and you can clearly hear him saying WTF.
Yeah.
So I think he's a bit of a sore loser as well. So I'm really sorry, Emma, for this, but your boyfriend is the villain.
Yeah, look, in that case, he actually did run up to the umpire, and you can see his mouth as it moves, and it's like, oh, wow, geez, I'm surprised the umpire actually didn't even pull him up for that. Perhaps he was having a crack about what happened on the wing. Maybe he demanded a 50-metre. You just never know.
No, you don't know.
But people have been saying he's very much like Alistair Clarkson back in the day, and look, if he's like Alistair Clarkson back in the day, he's pretty much as big of an angry ant as he was back then.
Who is your villain? And you can't copy me.
No. No, as much as I want to. And I'm not even going to use Clarko because it's I've already done it in my moment of madness. Believe it or not, Essendon supporters. So I went to the Essendon Carlton game, and Carlton pretty much were the better team on the day, and Essendon just went to water about halfway through the third quarter. And the vitriol and abuse that just in the crowd from the Essendon faithful was unbelievable. The hatred and disappointed was palpable. It was really quite a unbelievable experience. And then there was a video after the game outside the ground where an Essendon supporter had actually set his jumper on fire. So that club is just self-destructing at the moment. It is unbelievable just how fast they're going backwards. You just can't go past that. I mean, that guy should never be allowed in a football ground again, or a football game, in my opinion. So
every supporter has every team has their fanatics. And yeah, Exhibit A across the desk from me. But yeah, that's a bit ridiculous. A week is a long time in football, and in Essendon, knowing they're like are probably going to come out and smash Geelong next week, and this guy will be thinking, "Where's my scarf? Where's my beanie?" Essendon will be laughing because this guy has to spend another $50 to buy a beanie and a scarf. So
yeah, exactly. Especially if he had signatures on it, he's gone and done the silliest thing he could possibly do.
It's a bit over the top, but this is why people love their sport and why we all love AFL.
Yeah, it's a passionate sport. There's no question about that. Now, we put out a question to our listeners a bit earlier today, and we got some absolutely brilliant responses. We actually got quite a lot of responses, about 36 responses, and I reckon we could be sitting here for about 10 minutes just reading them out. So I'm just going to read out the pick of the responses, and the question was, has Clarko lost the plot? First, he blames Longmire, then the Swans and Rampy. Then he gets the scores wrong. He actually said 10 and 11 goals in 2 different interviews, despite the fact the Swans kicked 12. Then he chews the AFL CEO's ear off on Monday morning, whinging about the umpiring and the Swans again. Now, Jonathan from Twitter, he said, Clarko isn't real good for scores. It was 10 goals at the presser, 11 goals on grandstand on Saturday. I've seen 10 goals be mentioned in a couple of articles also. I guess they're at the presser and not the game, which is a pretty good one because we kicked 12 goals. Zach from Twitter, if Longmire had to meet with the AFL CEO every time we didn't get a free, he'd be down in Melbourne every week.
Exhibit A. Last week with that goal review.
Yeah, exactly. And ever since then, they've been paying or just reversing those marginal ones, like to the point where there's like a fingertip and it's just reversed. Pat from Facebook, mate, Hawks got so many free kicks too when they still lost. They actually were ahead. I think it was about 18 or 16 at one point. They still won the free kick count. Betty from Facebook, if he had complained or whinged if the Hawks had won, it would make his argument more substantial, but to me it's just plainly whinging because he lost and a sore loser. It's a good point.
Good. Go Betty.
Go Betty. James from Facebook, are the Melbourne-based coaches not getting from the umpires what they paid for? Oh, they did, however, get their money's worth with Kiz's non-free kick in the forward pocket, and that was when Ronke kicked his 6th goal, that spectacular one.
Those things are going to happen in a game, unfortunately. You're going to get those ones that should have been and the ones that are definitely not a free kick, but get a free kick.
Oh, yeah. Look, both teams got blocking free kicks for and against them or matched, so I don't know what he's whinging about, to be honest. Now, Fran from Facebook, Clarkson is a friggin' muppet. Cannot disagree with you there. As John said, never a mention of any Swans getting away with blue murder when the Hawks beat us by a goal in the previous 3 encounters. Spot on. Now he goes running to the CEO of the AFL about this and apparently other teams. Yeah, he is having an absolute whinge. And she followed up with, grow a set and grow up, Alistair. Accept that you're out-coached and your players were outplayed last Friday and get over it, you sook.
I think I like Fran. Fran, you're a legend.
I reckon Fran gets our comment of the week there.
Yeah. Good work, Fran.
Michelle from Facebook, what a sore loser. And Samuel from Facebook, fancy someone with literally any relation to Hawthorn complaining about the umps, the most protected club in history, put a lid on at Clarko. And last one, Dale from Facebook, has he been hanging out with Bomber Thompson and indulging in some mind-altering drugs?
Ooh, Dale. Below the belt,
Below
Dale.
the belt. Well, based on his performance and ranting and raving and carrying on in the media, I would say either Kennett's lit a metaphorical fire up under him or he's literally lost the plot. So, some good responses there, Penny, to our question to our listeners.
Yep, Fran gets the thumbs up from me because
Yep.
Clarkson is a friggin' muppet. Can we call him any? Oh no, that's the Sesame Street. Kermit the Frog.
Kermit the Frog, yeah. Kermit. Now, on to our weekend review, Penny. So, it was a pretty impressive defensive game. When you look at some of the stats, you'd actually be, I think, surprised at just how much of the ball Hawthorn had, despite the fact they lost the possession count. So the Swans, in the end, they won the possession count by 52 more disposals. They had 24 more contested and 31 more uncontested. But they had 16 less marks, 10 less tackles. In the end, they finished with 10 more clearances, 8 of them centre clearances. But the most important thing, or the most surprising thing for me, is the fact that Hawthorn had 56 minutes in possession compared to the Swans' 34 minutes in possession in the forward half.
Wow.
So that's a massive discrepancy despite the fact the Swans had more disposals.
And it looks like Hawks had more inside 50s with 63 to 39, so
That's a massive differential.
thumbs up to our defence. I mean, our defence has been critiqued in the last couple of weeks with our losses, but it looks like the boys really stepped up.
Yeah, they did. And if you have a look, I don't know how many of you would actually have the AFL app on your phone, but if you do, you can get a look at the heat maps. Sydney Swans, obviously, most of the heat was in the back half. It was literally in like about 80% was in the back 50 and a little bit in the centre square. Almost all of Hawthorn's was on the far wing. And they were obviously couldn't really get out of it because they didn't really have much in back or back forward. Penny, are there any additional stats you would like to sort of mention there?
Jack Gunston kicked 5 goals 3 and he kicked 1 goal 3 in the last quarter, so usually for someone who's very efficient at kicking goals, he kind of had a bit of a mess up. So
yeah, he could have won that game for the Hawks in the last quarter, which is something Clarko failed to mention when he ranted in the press conference. So yeah, the Swans went 5-0 in the last quarter and the Hawks went 1-5. So that was pretty much the main difference there. Then also Grundy took a really important chest mark, and I think with about 2 minutes left, and that was before they moved it down the length of the ground and eventually got it onto Rowan, who drove along to Ronke. Or Ronke, however it's pronounced.
Ronke.
Yeah, we've got to get that one right. Ronke.
Ronke.
Nothing wrong with this boy.
Oh, that was a terrible pun, Justin.
They're all terrible when you use his name like that. Now, Ronke obviously recorded the fastest speed of the match at 32.8 kilometres an hour, and that was when he chased down, I can't remember the Hawks defender for the second goal.
I don't remember.
Well, Papley kicked it forward out of the pack, and obviously we're still trying to get into the ground at this point, but he kicked it forward out of the pack, and then I'm not quite sure who it was, might have been, I'm not sure, but he basically chased him down from about 15 metres away. The guy had a 15 metre head start, and he chased him down, bumped him off the ball, and just dribbled it through. It was an absolutely sensational goal.
I think it was Taylor Duray for memory.
Yeah, it might have been, yeah.
Yep.
And he's no slouch either. He's one of the
No.
quickest players in the team. And the one thing that really surprised me was Jarrett McVeigh had the fastest average speed in defence for both teams at 9.8 kilometres an hour.
Jared McVeigh's on fire. We should, if he keeps going the way he's going, we should definitely re-sign him for another year. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
his effort against the Bulldogs, his effort against Hawthorn. I mean, people say he's too old, too slow, but, you know, he's been one of the key linchpins of our backline.
Yeah, look, he was probably exploited a little bit last week against the Roos. Hartung really did a number on him on a few times, especially that goal, that touched goal. But I thought he was really, really good in defence.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, so Jarrett McVeigh led the defence brilliantly, certainly off the half-back line. Jake Lloyd in his 100th match was really, really good. He finished with some very, very big numbers as well. And most importantly, actually finished with game-high metres gained, which was absolutely phenomenal. It was, I'm just pulling it up right now, he had 36 disposals, went at 72%, and almost all of those were in the defensive half of the ground. He had 6 score involvements, ended up with a goal assist, 12 pressure acts, and 629 metres gained.
Good work, Lloydie.
Now, the coaches' votes came in tonight, so Ronke obviously got the 10. That was never in doubt. Parker was second with 7. So that's a 4 from probably Longmire and a 3 from Clarkson. And then
Well, at least Clarkson gave him a 3.
Gunston got, I think, 5, and Lloyd came in with 3. So that's probably just Longmire giving him a 3 there. Now, Grundy as well, he was very, very good coming out of defence. He was rarely beaten. Another game where he wound up with more than 20 disposals, 8 or more marks, and above 90% disposal efficiency, which is absolutely unheard of for this guy who was once considered the turnover king.
Yeah.
And again, 400 metres plus metres gained.
He played so well. He played really well. So this is for you, Amy. Grundy played great.
Yeah, he did. Now, it's a really good performance overall, but we certainly can't go past it without at least giving Kieran Jack a bit of kudos there. Now, probably a little bit critical in the player ratings.
Yes.
In reflect, he probably deserved a bit more. He certainly set up Hayward's last goal. I did say in the player ratings, though, that I like what he does. He still wins the ball. So what I wrote was, he needs to clean up his disposal efficiency. He does so much great work, wins his own ball and moves the ball forward quickly and directly, but he still misses too much. And he still goes at pretty much 1 out of 2 hitting a target, which is probably not really high enough. But that impressive pass to Hayward got us back in the game and gave us a chance.
Yeah, like, it's really different, I guess, when you see a player playing live at a match and then you watch the replay on the TV and you actually think, oh, they had a shocker, but then you actually watch and go, you know, you only see a certain part on the ground.
Yeah.
You think, oh, he actually played pretty good. I remember in the one of the grand finals when O'Keefe got the Norm Smith, my mum was like, he did nothing. And then she watched the game and goes, oh, he actually did. So I think perspective is different to people, and you probably were a bit harsh on Kieran Jack.
Probably a bit harsh, and certainly on something I put on Facebook, which got mixed responses in the end. But look, I think everyone would agree that we would definitely like him in the team, and he's still best 22 when he's in form. And the good thing is his form is going up, and he's looking more and more like his old self. I think maybe he suffered without Hanbury in the team because he's picking up that role and that sort of inside midfielder a bit like Hanbury is. But he's more suited to a forward flank, almost forward pocket with that like forward line pressure.
Exactly, and Swans are usually slow burners, so I think he'll have a really good season. He'll keep going. He's signed for next year, I think, for memory.
He is, yes. So we had We were talking about it on the podcast. We've talked about Kieran Jack a few times this year, whether or not he will go around again next year. I think if his form keeps trending up, definitely he'd keep going around. I think he's a fantastic leader. His leadership has never been in question at the club. He worked with Hanbury. Hanbury was singing his praises many years ago. He worked with Florent. He's worked with Hayward. He's now working with Ronke. Ronke is singing his praises. Just about every young player who's gone through that side has sung his praises.
So I think he does a lot more off the field than...
Yeah.
So he's beneficial, so...
Oh, he certainly is. And look, another player who I felt was really, really impressive for the Swans, definitely had their best career game so far was little Ollie Florent.
Yeah, he did great. As I was at the game with you, I really didn't think he did that much. And then obviously watching the replay, I was like, God, he did some really good things in his pressure and his tackling and his intensity. So, I mean, this kid started with us last season, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And he's just gone from strength to strength. Obviously, he's going to have down games and he's going to have great games, but he's sort of trying to make really good games, string a couple together in a really good...
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Just on Florent, we talked about him a fair bit last year, and I don't think we were ever sort of on a fence or anything like that. We always thought he's got some talent. He looks like he can play. It's just a physique issue at the time. He's just too small. He's not quite ready for AFL. He's just not physically ready. We started at the start of the season. We're talking on the cast again, and it's kind of like, well, he looks ready, but he's probably not confident enough yet. And I remember having that discussion with Heather Quinlan maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago. And then he's shown some serious flashes and some serious quality so far in like the last 6 weeks. And then this week, just bang. And Longmire said he has that perfect balance of inside and outside. And he showed it. He showed it in spades against the Hawks. If there was more votes, I actually put him in our votes for the Player of the Year. I believe I gave him 1. I reckon if there was more coaches' votes, he would have picked up a couple of coaches' votes, I think.
Definitely. I mean, you saw what he was capable of in the Bulldogs game, and it's hard for these young boys because they're put into a team and, you know, they have this expectation to play really well because you've got to play really well to keep your spot. And if you have a bad match, people are like, oh, I need to go back to the NEAFL.
Yeah.
So, you know, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and Longmire's keeping him in for a good reason. So we're starting to see what that good reason is. And I guess like with any sport, the more game time you get, the more your confidence grows, and we get to see, you know, the good reason behind him with him, Hayward and Ronke. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, before we move on to the next part, just some more information about Florent, just in case you didn't know. It was his most disposals collected in a game, but also most of his disposals picked up was actually spent in the centre square. He finished with 5 clearances, 5 tackles, and almost game high 23 pressure acts. So he was fantastic. That was Josh Kennedy was 26, so just misreading from the one line. But he did finish with 5 clearances and 382 metres gained.
That's really great. It's good to get out, you know, midfielders getting some support from the up-and-comers. So. And
Hayward spent quite a bit of time in the centre square as well. He actually had a couple of... he had a couple of centre clearances in the first quarter. So he's playing... he's not really playing as a forward. He's playing almost as a flanker who runs into the middle.
Oh, that's good. That's what we need. Kennedy and co need some support, so the more that you put these young guys in, the more they're going to learn. And who better to learn from than Josh Kennedy?
Oh, undoubtedly so. And Parker had another ripper of a game. Then you look at Dean Towers probably didn't have a very good game, but Gary Rowan was really impressive at times, and he certainly set up that match winner and was pretty big in that last quarter, had a couple of really massive moments. Dane Rampy was decent. He was okay. Dan Robinson probably had one of his best, if not his best career game, and he was really good. Hewitt shut down Mitchell. He did a fantastic job. And McCartan showed the kind of player he could be, which is almost like a smaller Sam Reid that plays higher up the ground. So he could even be like a tall winger or a tall forward flanker.
Exactly. I mean, I've had this discussion with a certain Swans fan about the efficiency of Gary Rowan, and you know who I'm talking about.
We know who we're talking about.
And I know there's been a lot of criticism on Rowan because he doesn't have 30 possessions every week, but you know, I think he's one of those players that is never going to have 30 possessions every week. I think what he does for the team is those the little things. The quick wins, like the kick to Ronke, the tackling, the hand passing. You know, Longmire's keeping him for a week, so he's not going out there and looking like he doesn't want to be bothered. He's actually going out there and giving it his all and trying. And, you know, one game that's actually going to all come together, and we're going to see more of his brilliance. And as I said, with that so-called other Gary Rowan fan, it will happen when the Swans make the grand final this year. So,
well, hopefully he's had a couple of dreadful grand finals, fair to say, but
most Swans players do. So
one of your favourites has had a couple of dreadful grand finals as well.
Let's not talk about that. I think
he shall remain unnamed.
We're diverting off the topic. But Gary Rowan, good on him.
Yeah, look,
good on him. Everything he's been through this year, and you know, one day he's going to have that great, awesome game and put all the...
Yeah, look, I think with the spread of goal kickers, obviously not against the Hawks, we only have 4. But typically in recent times, we have had a decent spread of goal kickers. It's quite ironic, actually, because Gunston and Bruce kicked 8 of the Hawks' 10 goals. And Ronke and Hayward kicked 10 of the Swans' 5 goals. So there's like absolutely no spread whatsoever between the two teams. They only had 4 goal kickers each.
Well, if you know you've got a guy who's on fire kicking goals, why
not?
Give
it to him, yeah.
Give it to him.
Now look, Gunston probably would have been best on the ground if it wasn't for Ronke kicking that bag.
Yes, he would have been. He almost won the game for Hawthorn off his own boot again. And
he was electric. That was probably the best game he's played since their premiership years. I'd say easily the best.
Exactly. He's gone quiet recently in the last year and a bit, and I guess now that Roughhead's starting to get a bit older, you know, Gunston's, I think he's still young from memory.
I think he's about 26, 27, maybe 28, I'm not sure.
So Gunston's he's like almost Sam Reid, Gunston.
Yeah.
He's got that untapped, he's got that great potential, and we almost saw it on the weekend, so...
Well, fortunately, he kicked that point in the 2012 grand final.
Yes, I remember that. I'm like watching it going, oh no, he's the dead eye. I can't say dick, can I?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. Sorry. I didn't know if this was PG. He's the dead-eye dick and he's going to kick a goal and we're going to lose, and then he kicks a point and I was like...
We're still in it.
But anyway, diverging off topic.
Yeah. Now, look, before we move on to the next part, just a couple more sort of points from the game. Both coaches described it, and even the commentary described it as a very open style game, despite the fact that the Hawks have more forward time and also way more inside 50s, 24 more inside 50s. I think the proof is in the pudding now. The Swans game plan now suits them on large grounds. Now it's just a case they've got to find that balance so they can win on the SCG. And if they can keep that winning form away from home, they're going to be a very, very difficult team to stop. Now, the Swans, that was the first time they've beaten the Hawks in 4 games.
Yes.
But they've actually beaten them 3 of the last 4 times at the MCG, so they actually hold a pretty good record there. Sinclair and McAvoy was one of our matchups for the game, and for the most part, they were pretty much equal, but in the end, McAvoy was probably their second or third best player. As we said before, Gary Rowan and Kieran Jack had some massive moments in the last quarter. Hayward's kicked 9 goals from his last 3 games, 3 in each game. Now
he can play.
I know he can play. He can definitely play. He's going to have to keep that form up at least for another week or 2 before Franklin comes back. So
I'd like to keep him up for the rest of the season, not just the next week or 2.
If he can average 3 goals a game for the rest of the season, he's averaging Franklin numbers.
Well, it's good. It means we have a spread of goal kickers. I mean, when other teams come to play us, they think, we have to go to Franklin, but hey, who's going to look at Hayward and who's going to go to Ronke, and if he's still in the team?
Yeah, exactly.
Should be. And then another one that's going a bit of a quiet at the moment is little Papley. So once he gets into it, we're
Well, Papley's spending almost about 80% of his time in the midfield at the moment because Hannabury's out. So he's playing almost what Ben McGlynn used to do. And then, of course, you got Sam Reid, which will free up Rowan to be a bit more attacking and a bit more aggressive. So it's a really positive, I guess, when you're looking at it in further down the road after the bye about what that team makeup could actually look like. They could look like a real genuine goal-scoring machine.
Exactly, and sometimes you need those games to... Unfortunately, you need those losses to say, hey, this is where we are and this is where we need to go, and beating your nemesis at the MCG is a good way to... It's a good way to start, get a season going.
Best way to start, especially the scum.
Well, hopefully we keep that winning form going, and the next 3 games will certainly give us a bit of breathing space. But a week is a long time in football, so I don't want to be here next Monday dissecting the Fremantle loss.
No, we have to turn this dreadful home form around. Now, just one note, I actually forgot to mention this in my Monday's Moment of Madness. It just came to me right now. It was after the match, actually. Now, I just thought of this because I was about to say the Hawthorn supporters were actually quite good when we were leaving the ground. They didn't arc up. It was about the first time in about 4 or 5 years it's been like that. Now, obviously, one particular individual cut a very sulking figure on the sidelines and he had a very dirty, sour look on his face. That would be one Alistair Clarkson, who did not join the players or John Longmire for the Beyond Blue presentation.
Wow.
He just stood on the sidelines, arm crossed, like a little pissed off peacock.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's ridiculous because Beyond Blue is a very important cause. I mean, I don't really want to, go into the specifics of all about Beyond Blue, but it's very important. And, these footballers come together to, show awareness for it. And despite what you think about the game, you need to go out there and support a fantastic cause for Beyond Blue. I certainly know in my line of work that Beyond Blue is very important.
Oh, yeah. It is definitely a very important service. And if you ever feel like you need any help or support or you need to reach out to Beyond Blue. They're a very good group of people over there. Now,
this is not sponsored by
Beyond Blue. This is not sponsored, but we do certainly recommend if you ever need to talk to anyone, they are there to help.
Anyway, back to the football.
Yeah. Now, we'll move on to our NEAFL wrap. So, the Swans finally got their very first win of the season. Their goal-kicking form is still utterly dreadful. They led pretty much from the end of the first quarter throughout. I think they only kicked 1 goal to zip in the first quarter, and then after that they kicked, I think, 9 goals to 4 or 5 for the rest of the game. So they probably should have won by a fair bit more than they did. They kicked 2 goals, 5 in the last quarter. So they really need to work on that last quarter goal kicking because it's cost them 2 games already, and it's cost them 2 grand finals in the last 2 years. So they can fix that up. They're looking good.
Is Plugger on holidays?
Plugger is probably retired again. Because maybe they've got Mr. Magoo in there teaching them how to kick goals because the seniors and reserves have been equally afflicted by it.
Well, the positives is that they're getting into the forward line. I mean, when things will click, they will click. And so goal kicking is one of those things you can practice it and practice it and practice it. But once you get into the game, it's...
Yeah, exactly. Now, another player who keeps popping up on the team list, I don't know much about him. I'm hoping some of the people who listen might know a bit more about him than I do. Adam Tippin-Woody.
Is he related to...
Anthony McDonald?
Yes.
Yes, it's his cousin. So they are both originally from the Northern Territory. Adam was from the Northern Territory as well. It's in his draft profile. I don't really know much about him, what he's doing with the Sydney Swans at the moment. If he's coming through the academy... or if he's a Sydney Football League top-up player. It'd be actually really good if some of our followers be able to sort of chip in with some information there because unfortunately I don't really know much about him. But he is popping up quite regularly now in the NEAFL sort of top 10 list and he's performing quite well and he's kicking goals. Darcy Cameron, his form is still red hot. I think it's probably getting to that point where if Sinclair was injured, he'd definitely come in and he might even come in sooner rather than later anyway. Harry Marsh had a massive game, a monster game. From a defender, he finished with 38 disposals.
You were very critical of Marsh last week.
Well, he can't defend, but maybe they're not making him defend anymore. They might be trying to turn him into a rebounding defender, in which case I would be wrong on him because he has actually been quite decent as a rebounding defender, just not very good at defending.
Sorry, can you speak up a bit? We didn't hear what you said the last line.
He's been good at rebounding, but not very good at defending.
No, the other one.
I don't remember the other one. I don't remember past one sentence.
Oh.
Nick Newman, massive game, 40 disposals. He might even come in this weekend. You don't really know. And Colin O'Riordan has been in really good form for an extended period of time now. He's been averaging, I think, over 30 disposals for about the last 4 matches. So he had another massive one. And the Swans NEAFL team finally got their first win. And they, in all honesty, they probably could have had another 2 before now if their goal kicking was a bit better than what it was.
Newman needs to come in. I mean,
yeah.
He's been out of the side for the last couple of weeks, and if he's played himself back into form, then if he doesn't play in the seniors, we're going to lose him. There's talk of him wanting to go elsewhere.
Yeah,
There's talk of him wanting to go elsewhere, so if we can't bring Newman in, then sorry, Newman's gone.
Yeah, there might be something at play. You never really know. Like Aaliyah copped a bit last year, and he was kept out of the side for injuries and other reasons that there were rumours based upon, but you just never really know in the end. All right, Penny, are you ready to start?
Alrighty, let's go.
Okay, starting. Go.
Alrighty, Ash Oaks from Facebook. Can you explain why Nick Nat gets a week for a good tackle, but others such as Burton, Mitchell, Parker and McVeigh get 0 for acts that we all expected weeks for? Oh, Ash, that's a really good question. I think the umpiring and the tribunal system is very incoherent at the moment, and I think that Nick Nat was very unlucky. I thought Parker actually was gone when I first saw it, and I think Parker was very lucky. I'm going to pass this over to Justin because I think he might have a bit more explanation than me. But thanks, Ash. Great question.
I guess my point of view comes from doing a little bit of umpiring when I was younger. Nick Nat's one was, in the end, he did actually lift him up in the air in the tackle and drove him into the ground, and the player ended up concussed. So it was definitely rough and a bit over the top. And I don't think he would have got suspended if the player wasn't concussed, and that's pretty much the reason why there. But yeah, Luke Parker, we were both at the ground, and pretty much all the Swans supporters around us were, we'll be seeing you in a couple of weeks. And it was really surprising when Michael Christensen just came out and said, no, he's okay, no other choice. So yeah, look, the other guys, not too sure about the other guys. But look, Steve from Twitter, Penny, he asked, do you think Buddy should come back through the NEAFL since he's obviously lost his spot to Ronke?
It's Lance Franklin. Bring him back when he needs to be back. I mean, if you put him in the NEAFL, like, he's got the form, he's proven that he can play, and I think
well, he'd be the most expensive player to ever play reserve footy, pretty much.
Well, hopefully it'd be good following for the NEAFL, but no, bring him back.
We'd pull a crowd of about 10,000.
It's Buddy. Bring him back to the seniors. It's what he's there to do, and yeah, bring him back.
Now, James from Facebook, he asked, have Sydney, due to injuries, accidentally stumbled upon the same winning formula as Richmond by having a small, high-pressure forward line?
Great question, James. I was actually at the North Richmond game, and Richmond looked absolutely dreadful. So I actually think that your question is correct, because our forward line seems to look a whole lot different with our Buddy. I mean, we've got all these different players that are actually popping up kicking goals. I mean, 3 weeks ago, who's Ben Ronke?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think we've actually stumbled on a pretty good way to win, and when Buddy comes back, hopefully we can incorporate these boys in the forward line as well and not be too, as we say it, Buddy-centric.
Yeah, not too Buddy-dependent. Completely agree with you,
You got 17 seconds to answer this, Justin.
Well, I've certainly answered this before, I think, but look, it's different game style, different way of the plays that the Swans are playing at the moment, which I think is really good, and it's definitely worked out. And look, I don't know if the Swans have intentionally gone high pressure, small forward line. I think it's through necessity. But yeah, look, great questions there from everyone who follows us. Now, it is time to wrap up, Penny. It has been fantastic having you on the show. Thank you very much for coming on for your first podcast.
I'm so sorry, everyone, that you had to listen to all my dribble.
No, not at all. As always, you can follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram with our tag, The Swans Blog, and you can always get in touch with us during the week for the SwansCast and SwansCast Extra using the hashtag SwansCast or SwansCast Extra. Now, I will be back on Thursday with Heather Quinlan for the SwansCast Extra, doing the match preview after the teams have been announced, and as we said before, early team news is Franklin will not be playing. So he is hoping Ronke will boot another 10, or at least 7.
No, give someone else a go.
Well, Rowan, it's your turn.
Yeah, go, Rowan.